You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Wednesday, June 25th. We are back. So back. It's been a while since we've gone live, but joining me is always Weston. How you doing? You enjoy your little break?
I did. I mean, well, you know what was going on. So elements of it. It wasn't fun having a heat wave and my air conditioning breaking upstairs. That was disastrous. But shout out to my brother-in-law for getting us back on track without a huge expenditure. And then this week, the wife and kids are down at the beach, living their best life. And, you know, I'm just up here doing this, Steph, and all smiles on my face. But from here, I am sprinting down and getting some beach time in.
Love that. Love that for you. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you, everyone that's tuning in. Apologies that, you know, we haven't been going live for like the last couple of weeks. But, you know, sometimes you just need a little mental break from podcast.
Gotta hit the reset button.
Gotta hit the reset. Definitely just felt natural to not do a show, honestly. But we're back and we're excited to be back. So hopefully you guys are excited to have us back. Weston, Tight End University is in full swing. Nashville, Tennessee. What is this, like the third or fourth year for this? I don't even.
It might even be longer. I mean, it's definitely become this, like, I feel like I remember Tight End U just being like some of the pro tight ends just getting together, the big names, right? And then they really turned it into like a clinic over the last few years. And it's this like big to do. So I think you're probably right. Probably been that clinic style about three, maybe 4 years.
So George Kittle has been on just about every like sports NFL show that you can think of within the last couple weeks. Of course, in lead up to TEU, there isn't much going on in the NFL world. So everyone, all hands are on deck for this. So in one of the interviews, I believe it was on ESPN, he actually talked about how it kind of started, and it was just him doing his normal offseason training with a couple of tight ends. And he asked, I believe it was Greg Olsen, who he asked to, hey, like, would you be down to, you know, just come over and, you know, just kind of coach us up on a couple things and, you know, be really cool. And then I guess Greg Olsen was like, yeah, like, let's actually invite a couple of other guys too. Like, you know, these guys would be interested as well. Lo and behold, it just turned into a bigger thing than what they were expecting. I think that first year, you know, it became maybe 15 plus guys or so. I forgot the exact number that he said, but it's obviously grown quite a lot since then. And I think he said like 70 to 90 guys, you know, now in the last couple of years. So that's huge. And as far as 49ers who are there, obviously George Kittle, co-founder of TEU, but also you have Luke Farrell, who the 49ers signed this offseason to be TE2, and Braden Willis, Mason Pline. Those guys could definitely, you know, use the extra coaching up as they've been on the practice squads. So, you know, those are the four that are out there right now in Nashville. And you got clips of George Kittle double fisting a Bud Light. Taylor Swift is performing. Like, it just seems like a very good time out there. And so, you know, glad George Kittle is having some fun.
When is George Kittle not having fun? I mean, I've said multiple times on this show, if I could come back as anybody, it would be George Kittle and live his life. But yeah, I love that Farrell, Pline, and Willis are down there. I mean, it's all about rapport building. And I'm not surprised to hear the backstory on how things got started for Tight End U. Listen, like a lot of these guys, they do work out together, right? Like even if they're not the same position, it's like scientific fact that it is easier to work out with somebody than it is by yourself, just from a motivational perspective. So not surprised. That's how it began. I'm sure George Kittle, Kelsey, Greg Olsen, all these guys would tell you that participate in this. They never thought it probably would become this. But, it's an opportunity for all these players to learn from legitimately the best to do it, and the best to do it right now in the league that they're all trying to break through. They're all trying to compete in. So it's awesome. And I love it for all the players that get to participate and get that exposure. And I love that it's turned into what it has, because it just, to your point, it's football being fun. You know what I mean? Right before the grind of the football season is about to take place, feels like they get to have a little fun.
It's just cool that the position, tight end position, has become very communal, I guess. They all hang out. They're all pretty close. I love that. And I think it's very unique to the tight end position for them to all just be very close knit. So, but speaking of George Kittle and all the interviews that he's done, within those, there's some interesting things that he said on a lot of these. And when he joined ESPN, he was asked by Daniel I have a hard time saying his name. Vorsky? How do you say it, Weston? Come on.
Bow out of the pronunciation.
Come on. Help me out here. No. I sounded like I was having a stroke just there, and you just left me out to try. All right. But hopefully you guys know what I was talking about. I took a chance there, and it didn't work out. But he was on ESPN, and he was asked, what is the most challenging thing that he as a tight end has to do in Kyle Shanahan's offense? And this is how he responded. Oh, of course, now the audio doesn't play. Let's see if I can figure this out.
You had it going.
I had it going. That's what
I can validate this.
All right, let me try this again. Hold on. All right. TBD.
Are you hearing it, Steph?
Oh, yeah, I am. Sorry.
We are not. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. There's too much downtime here.
Because it doesn't even... All right. Sorry, guys. I got it up right here. This is what happens. You guys can see it, right?
Yeah.
What's the most challenging part of being in that offense?
I think the two things that stick out to me right away is you're responsible for a lot of one-on-ones in the outside zone. And that's anywhere from Von Miller's.
So you're blocking the best defensive ends in football by yourself.
One-on-ones. And we don't try to always do that. You see a lot of the stuff me and Juice do together where we're kind of double teaming an end off to a corner or a safety. But there's just times where you're required just to do that. And then throughout my career, I've at least done, I don't know, a handful of one-on-one pass pros versus these defensive ends as well. They would get paid $35 million to rush a quarterback. And I do not get paid $35 million to protect the quarterback. I'm not Williams, but I try my best out there. So we just get left on an island sometimes. But I love that challenge because as a tight end, we're the only position that gets to do everything. Catch, block, pass pro. You see tight ends throw the football, kind of do everything. And so I just want to be great at all those things. And so it gives me an opportunity to be great at those things.
Just really,
what's the most
really quickly. Okay,
part,
it's gonna.
What's the most challenging part of being in that offense?
I'm trying to turn it off on my side. All right, so one quick thing. I'm hooked on phonics, man. I mean, that's an easy way to pronounce it or figure out how to pronounce it. Shout out Rob D in the comments. Orlovsky. Thank you. Okay. But now with George Kittle and, just what he said was the hardest thing he had to do, we would normally criticize any other team who ever had to put a tight end blocking a defensive end, right?
Yep.
And even another tight end, who was it? Was it Kraft or something? Who was the one? Tyler Kroft or
Kroft? Yeah, Kroft.
The 49ers, former 49ers tight end who was obviously a backup at that time, who had the task of, having to block God, I don't even remember his name.
Hassan Reddick.
Hassan Reddick in such a pivotal NFC championship moment. And we were all like, why would you do that? Like, why would you have your tight end blocking a defensive end? You know who we never say that about, Weston? George Kittle. Because he's a unicorn. He's probably one of the only guys in the league. And maybe there's a short list of guys who could take on some of the best defensive ends. But I feel like George Kittle is the most consistent. He's the best at it. He put Aiden Hutchinson on his back and many other guys straight up pancakes in that same role. And yet here he is saying that's the most challenging thing he has to do. You would never know because he does it so freaking well. I just feel like that's something that can't be overlooked. We definitely have to appreciate George Kittle for that because not every tight end can do what he does.
Yeah. So many things to unpack with just this like little statement. And the first and the most obvious is 49er fans, I know they all love George Kittle. We all know how special he is, but we won't fully recognize how special he is till we don't have him anymore, right? Because there's no disrespect to any other tight end that's ever played this game and the ones that have played it at the highest of level. When all is said and done and that man hangs it up, he probably is going to be considered the best to ever do it at his position. And that is a unicorn, right? There's only one GOAT, right? At the end of the day per position or however you want to break that down. And it's because he does that element of the game, right? Like we always remember the flashy tight ends that catch a ton of passes and are really more wide receivers. George Kittle literally does do all of that. And the hardest thing about, ask any offensive lineman what their hardest job is and why the tackles get paid so much money, because they're out on an island against those guys that George Kittle is describing. And it isn't, Steph, one of the hardest things to do in the National Football League is to block in space. Mm-hmm. It's these players aren't getting washed down the line and colliding into other body, you know what I mean, and rubbing them off their path. They have a clean path to the quarterback. It's just you in between that player and the quarterback. And a lot of times Kittle's doing it on a full head of steam coming across the line of scrimmage where he has to stop. And that guy just has to cut in and can blow right by him. And he does it better than anybody. I've said it so many times on your show. When Trent Williams is not in the lineup, George Kittle is the best offensive lineman on the football field for not just his team, for the other team as well. Like he's that good at what he does away from the pass game, right? And he's that valuable in the run game and in the pass game, even as not as a receiver, to give that extra blocker and allow your wide receivers to get open or create a little bit more separation. George Kittle, in my opinion, will leave this sport the best to ever play his position.
Wow. I think that's a great conversation just in itself, that we could probably have a whole episode just talking about how we think George Kittle will end up being the greatest of all time when it comes to the tight end position. Like, absolutely. Just such an underrated part of his game. I don't want to say it's underappreciated because I think us 49er fans know, but, you know, sometimes maybe we take it for granted because, like, we have this guy who could do this and he could do it at such a high level that we forget that not every tight end could do this. So it's very much unique for George, and we very much thank him for it. But George was also on Bussin' with the Boys podcast, as I feel like he does every single year at least once, right?
Yeah, usually around this time.
This time. I think they record in Nashville, right? So makes a ton of sense. And again, Kittle's making the rounds. Good face of the company of TEU. It was a very long interview, Weston. I was actually trying to power through it before we were going live here. I think it's like at least an hour of just George Kittle. So a lot of great topics in that interview. And it's just guys being dudes talking in the bus, right? So George Kittle always having fun, always a good time. But this is a 49ers podcast. One thing that I wanted to share is what he had to say about Isaiah Neyor, 49ers undrafted free agent of this season. Let's see what he had to say.
I'll just put that next to
Who's
you.
the other Nebraska boy?
Wide receiver. I'm so bad with rookies. Number 14. He was like your tall, lanky wide receiver last year. Starts with an N.
Neyor. Yeah,
Neyor.
Neyor,
I want to say Namor, but that's not it.
He transferred from
14 is his number. He's a good kid. I like him. He's a freak. He is really tall, and I watched him. He was running a route, and he got like 9.5 yards in 2 strides. I was like, holy
No shit.
It was insane. We watched it like 10 times as the tight end room. We're like, how is he doing this? Dude, it's funny too. Like,
when did he get drafted? Did he get drafted?
No, he's undrafted.
Yeah, undrafted. He's got a shot.
6'4", 440. If you're that tall, like just make plays and do well on special teams,
right?
Like at the bare minimum, he should make practice squad.
Just imagine 6'4". Well, how much weight?
218, and he runs a 4.4.
Yeah.
6. Yeah, that
he's
size.
He's a freak.
Gunner.
He made some
Running
good
down
plays
on
too.
kickoff. Well,
he can make himself a nice little career.
It was
a 4 guy.
It was really funny. He like rookies are all shy kind of to start.
Yeah.
And it's kind of towards the end of the OTAs, he just walked me, hey, go Big Red. And I was like, I love it.
I mean, if you're making an impression on George Kittle like this early in the game through OTAs, and I get it, you're not in pads or anything like that, but if you can make an impression, it's almost even more impressive, right? Like he's not in pads, he's not just his route running, how he's able to cover ground. It's impressive. I didn't even know that I probably did know at some point, and I've probably mentioned here on the show his height, how tall he is. But he's got those long strides, as George Kittle's mentioning, super impressive. So he was already someone that I was thinking, okay, he's either going to make the 53, have that last spot on the 53 if they're afraid that, he might get swooped up if they try to get him on the practice squad and he doesn't make the initial 53, or they will try their chances at him not making the 53 and then hoping that he makes it through waivers and, he can then sign on to the practice squad. I'd love to see him make the roster because I think we've seen too many times the 49ers just leave it to chance, and you have to, right? You can't have everyone make the team, or you can't have everyone have a phantom injury. Although that's one of my favorite strategies.
Yep.
I think I'd like to see Isaiah Neyor make the 53. I don't want to see him get poached by another team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is a glowing review from somebody who we just literally said is going to be the best to ever do what he does. And part of that is catch footballs and run routes, right? So certainly high praise. Look, I get it. On paper, Isaiah Neyor, 6'4", 4'4", 40, 220 pounds. He has all of the things you can't teach, right? Like you can't teach height. You can't teach speed like that. You can't teach just physical traits. Like he's got all of those. You hope that he's able to put all of those together. We're going to learn a lot more about him very soon when the pads come on. And I'll hold my judgment until then, but of course I want a 6'4", 4.440 guy to make this roster. Like that's something that this team has never had. Like it just has never had that, like that combination of size and speed. Like never. Like I can't remember, you know what I mean? Like the last super tall, productive receivers, TEU, 6'3" and change, right? That's big on the big side. JJ Stokes was another one. But the rest of these guys were not. You know what I mean? 6-footers, 6'1", like big physical. Like we've never had that. And this league is littered with players that undrafted, late round draft picks, especially at the wide receiver position, that have taken the league by a storm. Obviously, Neyor's played at the highest level of competition that college football has to offer. So we know has the ability to compete. Just is he going to be able to put it together? And he's going to be able to put it together quickly, because if you're going to put it together, this is the year to do it. When your number one wide receiver is going to be sidelined for half of the year, there is a vacancy. You know what I mean? Like, can you go take it? Physically speaking, sounds like he can. And I think he'll be, if he's playing this well just at the OTAs and doing those things, and he's popping off at film where the tight end room is watching it 10 times in a row, right? Coaches are watching it multiple times in a row. He's making enough noise for himself. He's going to get early opportunities in camp, and we'll see what he does with it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the early impressions are very impressive. And, you always wonder, like, when it's undrafted free agents and you hear about them having a good, rookie mini camp or OTAs, you're always wondering, like, okay, like, what happened in college? Like, why wasn't he able to be a drafted guy? And, for Neyor, it just seems like he was a little inconsistent, maybe needed more play strength. But we've seen stories of guys who are late draft picks, undrafted free agents who can make a name for themselves. I mean, Juwan Jennings what was it, a high pick, right? So sometimes something just clicks, and just the added competition, some guys thrive off of that, right? So yeah. Isaiah Neyor hopefully could be that guy. And based on what Kittle's saying, I just know that if Kyle Shanahan is seeing this, and I know he is, he's probably like thinking to himself, God, the possibilities of what I could do with a guy like this. Again, if he could put it all together and if he could be consistent, not expecting much for his rookie season. I'm beyond expecting anything for rookie receivers, Weston, just because I know they always meet the doghouse. I think Ricky Pearsall was the exception just because he was a first-round pick. But I can't wait to see what he does in the league. And that goes for Pearsall as well, which actually brings us to our next conversation here, because Ricky Pearsall was on the 49ers Talk podcast with Matt Maiocco. And he shared a number of different things. And I don't know if you got a chance to watch it at all, Weston, but one thing that jumps out, and it was a pretty short interview. If you guys want to check it out, you certainly can after this. One thing that stands out, just the maturity that he has, the cool, calm, collected nature of him. It's actually pretty incredible, especially considering everything that he went through. Like, I almost feel like what he went through last year is why he's so calm. Because, like, if you could go through something like that and come through on the other end, like, what reason is there to be faced by anything? Yeah. So and that really stands out. It's crazy. He's so young, and I don't know, he just kind of carries himself in a way that's very mature and impressive. But one particular clip that I'm going to play here, he was asked, just kind of about the opportunity that he's going to have, this year. And here's what he had to say about his mindset.
Oops. I mean, I feel like my mindset wise is not changing at all. Like, I'm going to attack it the exact same way. Like, I always have, no matter what place I'm at, whatever the coach tells me, like, I still have that wide receiver one mindset. And that's just how I was raised. I've always been a hard worker. My parents raised me that way, and always had the same mindset, no matter what position you're in, whether you're in the depth chart or whatever it is. That's how I just attack my life in general. And I think, what makes our room really cool is that everybody has that mindset. And I think that's something that has, like, very healthy competition in there and makes everybody better. And I'm excited to see what our receiver room can do this year, because I'm still very confident.
So have no fear. Ricky Pearsall says wide receiver one is here. So, I mean, that's cool, though. And I get it. A lot of players have this mindset, or at least say they have this mindset. But I really do believe it with Pearsall. And like he said, he kind of feels like all of the guys in that room have that similar mindset, and it's healthy competition for all of them. Pearsall and Jacob Cowing working together this offseason. Even from the clips that we saw, which weren't that many, but there were enough where I just get the sense like those guys are pushing each other, Oh, yeah. And so that's great to see. And for all the worrying that we're doing of the wide receiver room, Weston, does this alleviate some concerns, or you got to wait to see it, or what you saw in 2024? Like, is that enough? Do you feel like we're going to see a better version of Ricky Pearsall in his second year?
I want to believe that we're going to see a stronger, I think those last few weeks, the lights came on for him, right? And production went through the roof in the final stretch of this, what was a lost season. And was one of the things that we walked out of the, like with, some of the positivity that we carried walking away from the season. I think you were talking about kind of just his mindset and his mentality about that, competing for wide receiver one, and how that's always been the same since day one and it'll never change. I think it's one of the things that the 49ers probably loved about Ricky Pearsall and why they probably had him higher on their list than maybe other teams did. It just felt like a good fit for Kyle, a good fit for the offense. Definitely versatile. My concern with Ricky is just health. You know what I mean? Right. Like, you're already getting that badge. And listen, being shot is not part of like remaining healthy, right? That's like a freak thing that he was part of that, to your point, I'm sure has completely shaped or changed his mindset too, where, you know what, I can be a little swaggy. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm playing with house money. I'm going to go ball. I'm not going to take any of this for granted, because this could have just as easily been taken away before it even got started. This time last year, right? I mean, it was pretty much this time last year when that happened.
It was Labor Day weekend.
Yeah. So that's right, because it was much closer to the season too.
Coming up.
I still have does this ease my concerns about the 49ers wide receiver room? No, not necessarily, because while I think, Cowing is super talented, I think Pearsall's super talented. We know what you have in Jawan. You hope to get BA back. Like, what opportunities are they going to be given? How's this offense going to look? And they're going to have to be incorporated. You know what I mean? A guy like Ricky feels like a guy that you got to get in the game flow, right? He's got to touch the ball 7 to 10 times in a game, and feels like he'll be productive with that. I think so often, like especially in the 49ers offense, like think of Cowing last year, or we'd highlight the mistake, but it was literally his only opportunity in the game. Does anybody else understand how difficult it is to just be standing on the sideline for the majority of a game and then just get thrown into the heat of action and then immediately remove? Like, it takes, like, you got to work in, you got to be part of the game flow. Like, that's part of being a gamer. Like, your juice has got to be going, you have to have some confidence. Like, I missed the block, but I made that one. Or I dropped the ball, but I made that catch. Like, it's not as simple as just go in there and make the play. And that's my concern about the 49ers, like, wide receivers usage is like how much, right? Like, and I get them in the rhythm. So my concern is less to do with the talent in the room. It's more to do with, like, what's the game plan for this position this year go forward?
Well, I said it on Bully Ball because we had a show where we talked about the wide receiver room, and I said I don't think it's crazy to think that the new crop of wide receivers, Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, just purely from the receiving standpoint, not this wide back role, just receiving.
Yeah.
I think those guys can outperform Deebo Samuel's output easy. That's what I think.
I don't disagree with that. I think, again, the special thing about Deebo was what he looked like with the ball in his hands.
He was a playmaker.
Yeah,
but
and
he wasn't so much a wide receiver, which I think the team evolved past the point where Brock Purdy, like, his strengths, like, he needs a wide receiver.
Yeah. He wants to throw the ball.
And when they didn't have one, when Brandon Ayuk went down last year, it was obvious, right? Like, it hurt the offense. So I think they're in a much better position now to swap Deebo for the likes of Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing or whoever else.
What I want to see is the evolution of Shanahan's offense, because I agree. I think the wide back is done, right? I think that was, like, you'll have some
at
wrinkles
least for now. Yeah. There might be some stuff here and listen, there.
Ricky Pearsall, Jacob Cowing, Jawan Jennings, none of those guys are lining up in the backfield standing next to Christian McCaffrey like Deebo Samuel did. That's just not a thing. Like, there's no threat to that at all. Deebo was a threat in that regard. I want to see what the evolution looks like. Does this offense look more like Atlanta did when they had Matt Ryan at quarterback and Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu, and Tony Gonzalez and a really, like good players at the core positions, and they stretched the field, much like they did in Houston when he was the offensive coordinator and they had DeAndre Hopkins and Matt Shaw at quarterback, right? We've never seen that version of the 49ers offense. We've seen gimmick. Everything's been run the ball, and when the ball's in the air, it's very gimmicky, right? It's very screen-based oriented. It's the evolution of the wide back because Debo let you do that. There's nobody on this team that's going to do what Debo did. I don't think there's anybody that you want to do what Debo did. So, Kyle, where do you go from here? And that's where my concern lies. Like, are these guys going to get the right touches? Again, it'd be a gross misuse of Ricky Pearsall to think that you're going to line him up next to Christian McCaffrey in the backfield and have some gimmick play out of that. That's not what he does well either, So that's where my concern is like, what's the evolution for Kyle look like? Not necessarily what does the room look like with talent? Because the truth is, Steph, they can all play. They can all play ball. Everyone at this level can play ball.
I think these receivers are nice. Like, he's going to be nice. Even just the short amount of time that we saw him to finish last year, it was damn impressive. And if he can build on that, which I think he will, I think he's very eager to do so. I mean, it's going to be a game changer. What you said, I think, could this offense look more like the Atlanta Falcons version of Kyle's offense? I would not be surprised. I'd not be surprised because the reason we hadn't really seen anything like that before in San Francisco was because Kyle was always wanting to hide the flaws of the quarterbacks that he had, which every quarterback has flaws, but I think he really wanted to play to the strengths of who he had available to him. Right. And now you have Brock Purdy, who I think he's proven he could play within those parameters. And I think every year, and it's been like an evolution, right, of just Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan's trust in Brock Purdy. Sure. And I think every year you kind of see them peel it back even further and say, okay, like I think you can handle this. Let's see what else you could do. So I think this could be the year where we see a little bit more of that from Kyle, from Brock Purdy. And certainly with the types of receivers that they have, it's like, okay, now we really could do that. Yeah. So I'm excited.
And the good news is you stretch the field, you spread out, I want to see more 3 wide receiver sets, right? Like 3 guys on the field at a time, you spread them out, you get them outside the numbers, like that formation right there that you're running. That we were talking about George Kittle earlier. Where does he live? In the middle of the football field, right? Like you spread it out.
And use him.
Use
him.
Yes. And you can use him closer to the line of scrimmage if you want to get away. Because the most dangerous thing in football, Steph, is falling in love with 7 and 9 step drop step routes, right? For the quarterback. That's a long time back there. And they get way out of position, right? Where the edge rushers can literally just draw a straight line to go get them and not have to collapse a pocket or anything like that. Can't fall in love with that. Can't be married to that.
That's why QB school, what's his name again? He hates the 7-step drops.
Orlovsky.
Hands off. No, it's not. God, I'm spacing on his.
O'Sullivan? Is it JT?
Yeah, JT. Yeah. He hates it, and he'll say it in like every video to the point that I'm just like, okay, dude, you can't keep complaining about the same things in every 49ers video.
But quarterbacks hate it too. You know what I mean? Because he hated it as a quarterback because he probably had his bell rung a dozen times because when you're calling those plays, there's a lot more responsibility on the quarterback to know when to get rid of the football, right?
Yes, it has to be boom, 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 boom.
Has to be time.
All out, yeah, exactly.
Has to be time.
Which that's another thing. I think Brock Purdy is going to be on time, in rhythm with his receivers way more than he was last year.
For sure.
That was a huge issue with the offense, I think. And all season, it just seemed like the timing wasn't there. I think we see that improve this year. But on that note, we're excited for training camp, and I'm sure the 49ers are as well. We still got a ways to go. The rookies report July 15th, and veterans will be reporting July 22nd. So a little under a month to go still till we see our boys back on the field, but they also announced the joint practices. And usually the 49ers like to always do at least one. This year they've got two. They got two joint practices with the Broncos August 7th in Santa Clara, and then with the Raiders the following week, August 14th. That will be in Nevada, Vegas, baby.
No.
Or just outside of.
Are these just outside. Are these, Steph, do you know, are these just single day practices? Because traditionally they've done it like
I want to say it's usually a couple of days.
And it leads into the game where the teams play each other. Yeah.
Yep.
So these are single. Correct. I don't love these joint practices, if I'm being honest. Maybe this is a different format, right? If it's just a single day, maybe it'll be more productive for both teams. But usually when they're 2-3 days, there's always a fight that breaks out, and then that spills over into a meaningless preseason game where people are just getting chippy. You know what I mean? Like in like a week 1 preseason game, it's like, what are we doing here, fellas?
I don't know what you're talking about, Weston. I think that's the best part.
I know. It just to me, it's like unnecessary. You know what I mean? Like everybody's just trying to like set a tone, and maybe it's just I just get nervous this time of the year because it's like, please let everybody get through the summer healthy, and start the season.
I mean, guys cannot wait to hit a different person other than a guy on their own team.
I know.
So yes, that joint practices does kind of evoke that even more. And for the Broncos, there's going to be a few former 49ers on that team. So including Greenlaw and Hufanga, 49ers favorite McGlinchey. So it's going to be fun. I can't wait to see the reports. I wonder, Weston, like they haven't officially said this, but the fact that they announced it in just one date, because like we said, it's going to be a couple of days probably. I wonder if it'll be open to the public, these practices, but I don't know. 49ers hate opening things up to the public.
Oh yes.
So I'd be surprised, but
maybe the one in Vegas, maybe, or the one just outside of Vegas.
I was really hoping
because you could go to the Denver one. Oh no, it's in Santa Clara.
Yeah, exactly. I was really hoping that one would be in here. Or here in Colorado.
How far are you from the stadium?
Well, they don't practice at the stadium usually. In fact, I think last time they did a joint practice with the Broncos, which it was a few years ago. They actually practiced down south in the Colorado Springs.
Okay.
Like in the Army field or something like that.
Okay.
Because that's all south. But
all right.
Yeah, I would have loved to see it. And they also, because I've gone before, but it was before I was doing content creation. Like it was before I was doing 49K, I think.
Just to go.
Yeah, I just went and I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I went, and I live super close to where the Broncos practice actually. And so would have been nice. But they're doing a ton of construction for the Broncos facility. They got all that money they got now.
Damn.
So yeah. I don't know what they're building over there. But anyway, I mean, this isn't a Broncos podcast. But yeah, really excited for training camp and what's to come. And I gotta leave in a couple minutes here, but just really quickly, we're also excited that Malik Mustafa appears to be in pretty good shape coming off of his ACL injury. For the YouTube viewers, we're watching a video. I guess I should say for the audio listeners, we're watching a video on Malik Mustafa that he posted not too long ago on his social media account. I think it was on his Instagram, probably on his story. So might not be there anymore, but looking good. 21 weeks post-op, and he's moving pretty well.
Do we still ever confirm like what this injury was? Like everything's torn ACL. First of all, nobody's moving like that 21 weeks after a torn ACL.
That's exactly what I thought.
So this is a scope or a cleanup or something that took place.
What's weird and I kind of did a deep dive on it a little bit before we went live because I wanted to make sure that I spoke about it accurately. Because my understanding was that it was not an ACL tear.
Yeah.
But there's been a couple of times now where Mustafa himself has reposted another post saying torn ACL, and he doesn't refute that. Like he doesn't even like, he kind of just ignores that. Like he says something else about the video or post. And so I'm like, okay, like, well, if he's not saying it wasn't, he's not correcting people. So was it? And then I remember someone else, it might have been Nick Wagner, who said that it was something went wrong with the ACL, like repair, what had been repaired. Something else was, he injured something with the repair. It was related to that, but
I feel like there's just never been confirmation as to what it was. I can tell you what the truth is. It is not a torn ACL. Again, I will stand on it that nobody's running that well 21 weeks after a reconstructed ACL.
I think that's you know what? Yeah, I think that's the best confirmation we can get that it wasn't an actual tear, which like it kind of drives me nuts that Mustafa isn't correcting people. Because I literally saw a post and it's still up. It's on Adam Schefter's Twitter.
Yeah.
Saying like he suffered a torn ACL. And so you have to imagine, okay, yeah, that's why other people are running with this idea that he tore his ACL. But yeah, I agree. From what I recall, that's not what I thought it was based on other reports that I had seen. So, and based on him running like this, yes, I don't think it was a tear. So he's looking good. He's looking good.
We'll find out. I mean, moving like that, why is he not going to be ready by camp?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I mean, I don't play him in camp. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, I don't think he'll be ready by then, but you know, this is a good sign. It's a good sign. So, all right. Well, we had a great show. Great show back. You know, Weston, let's do this next.
We are back. We are back.
So back. Glad to be back. Thank you all for tuning in. We won't leave you guys. We'll be here doing shows, talking about nothing. It's like Seinfeld for these like 40 days, man. Just shows about nothing, but we'll have fun doing it. And yeah, hope you guys all enjoy the rest of your week. I understand it's a Wednesday today. We'll be back on Monday, most likely next week. We just had to move some things around for this week, but appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, not just mine, but Weston's as well, Island 49. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your week. Peace.